Welcome. How's everybody today? It's getting close to Christmas for everybody, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys. You have no idea at all. No idea. And we have a special series that we're doing today, as well as for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And this is part 2 of the series on grieving around the holidays. There is no such thing, is there? What? There is? I would have never guessed. Nope. There's no triggers at Christmas time. There's no triggers around the holidays, is there? But we have a special guest coming on our show today, and her name is Hope Reger, and she is a grief coach. And our series on grief around the holidays is going to be amazing. We had part 1 last week. We have part 2 today, and part 3 is coming up tomorrow. So she is a founder of Grief to Hope. She is from Ohio. I'm so excited to have her on our show today. And if you are new here, I should tell you who I am. My name is Tina Ginn. I am with Your Backup Plan app. I am the creator and the developer of Your Backup Plan. And of course, a best-selling author, like everybody seems to be these days, of In the Blink of an Eye. Just like that. Your life changes in a second. It's probably even less. It's in the blink of an eye. I am an emergency preparedness coach and a financial advisor by trade. We are on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. And I need to make a song about that where I can just push the button and it just sings all of those social media. We talk about real life stories on our show with really amazing guests. And for some reason, our internet is having problems. I don't know why. So be patient with us today. We talk about their life-changing events in their lives, tragedies, traumas, sickness, accidents. And in the blink of an eye, your life can change in a second. Something life-changing, something unexpected happens to you or your loved one. And are you prepared? Do you have an evacuation plan? Do you have an exit plan? Do you get a 5-minute evacuation notice? In some cases, we don't. So that's what we talk about on our show. And of course, today is focused on grief. And I'm excited to get our party started. So let me get that going right this second. And I'll see you on the other side in a flash.
In the blink of an eye, life can change dramatically. On our podcast, Talking Taboo with Tina, we delve into these life-altering events with celebrities, authors, and everyday people just like you. You'll also discover Your Backup Plan app, a life-organizing tool designed to prepare you for any unexpected circumstance. It's your safety net, taking the sting out of tragedy. Imagine a plan B that ensures your finances are safe, even in the worst-case scenario. But it doesn't end there. Join our vibrant Facebook group for free webinars on backup planning and secure your future today.
Welcome back. So let's bring on Hope Reger from Grief to Hope. Whoops, there she is. Hi, Hope.
Hi, Tina. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. You know, we've had Hope on our show before, and I'm going to have the link down below in the description box for you to click on it because she goes more into her backstory of your past. But today we have a great focus around the holidays, and that's how to have some relief from this grief and not get triggered as much, hopefully. Like, I actually go through the day and say, oh, I didn't get triggered today. Or, oh, I was only triggered once today. Oh, today was a bad day. I couldn't get through anything. But it just makes you realize it in a little bit different light. So I'm so happy to have you on. Hope is from Ohio. And her famous quote is, "Grief changes your entire world. It can also inspire you to change the world." So
Yeah,
where did all of this start for you, Hope? I wanted you to kind of give a little bit of a background for our listeners.
absolutely. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me back. A little bit of my background is I lost my son Justin at I say forever 19. He is forever 19 in 2016 to murder. He and his roommate got into an altercation, which ended up being into a violent altercation. And because of a technicality with the placement of where they stood, that person filed self defense and eventually was never charged for his murder. And so in 2016, it was around Thanksgiving and the holidays. So these times that we're going through really played a major part in my grief. So one of the things that I try to do with Grief to Hope, which is a program that I created in honor of my son, it's now a nonprofit organization.
Awesome.
Recently, that has come to fruition. But for the past 3 years, I lead a Grief to Hope support program just because I couldn't find answers, questions, people that got what I needed, like understood what grief was and losing my son. And I've developed and created a community of people that are just joined together for the most unfortunate event of their lives, and in all different shapes and sizes, where it's death of loss of their sons, their parents, their spouses, and we just get together and support each other through this program, and it's been incredible, absolutely incredible.
Uh-oh.
I think I lost Tina for a minute. I think our internet is giving us a little bit of trouble tonight. Hopefully she'll come back on here.
There we go.
There we go.
There we are. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We're back.
So awesome. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, great. So basically, Grief to Hope is again is something that I created in honor of my son. It's something I focus on each and every day. I have wrote a book in July of 2022. For those that just wasn't comfortable in a support program but still wanted to hear my story as well. So that's where Grief to Hope is. I'm super excited. We start a new session coming up in January. And so if ever you're interested and just want to be around people that get it, come check me out.
Awesome. And her link is down below as well. And make sure you like, follow, and share this with those that you love and those that are struggling with grief as well. And you can press on that bell and you get notified whenever we post new videos up or go live like this with Hope. Well, thank you so much for Hope for giving us a little bit of background. Now, over the holidays, I find it exceptionally difficult. Right from Remembrance Day
Mm-hmm.
all the way till like January 15th.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst. Wouldn't you
Yeah.
agree?
Absolutely. So mine is a double whammy because I lost Justin in November, and it was the week before Thanksgiving. We
Oh,
actually had service the week of Thanksgiving. So that first year, um, it was hard to even acknowledge a holiday, right? Like
yeah.
I don't even think the first year or that first Thanksgiving with I remember just laying in bed, right? Like I didn't get out of bed. And nobody really expected a lot from me. Um, the grandkids, once it became Christmas, they didn't understand why Nana, was so upset, of course, because they were young. But Christmas, I remember like holding my breath and getting in my car and going to a store and just trying to hurry up and get things done, get back in my car, drive back into my garage and exhale. Like I couldn't I couldn't figure out how to function
Normally.
normally during the holidays. And that was for the
Yeah.
first month that I lost Justin. And that's normal, right? I didn't put up a tree. I was like, I just wanted to get through it. And so one of the things that I learned the following year was I needed to set expectations with my family. And that was another thing. Like the first year, nobody talked about it. Like nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody brought it up. We just got through the day and it was done. But that following year, when I knew it was coming around, it was the first, sort of like the first of everything. I started to set expectations with my family. And what I did was I said, okay, listen, I want to talk about my son. I want to talk about Justin. I want to set a table, set a place for him at the table. Or, I want to actually do some, memories or talk about certain memories or some traditions or
Hmm.
start new traditions. But the basics of it is that I had to set those expectations to wherever I was planning on to attend.
Right.
One, it put me at a relaxed state where I felt like there was no expectations but what I've already prepositioned. Two, it allowed me to say no. If they wanted to do something different, it also provided me the allowance to say, I don't think I'm ready for that. And three, it also allowed them to relax and say, should I not talk about Justin? Should I talk about Justin? Should I bring him up? Should I talk about memories? It sort of was like the elephant in the room. So if you set that expectations with the family before you go through this, it relieves so much pressure of how everything could sort of take place.
Yeah.
And also give yourself the patience and the ability to say, I'm not okay with that if they
Yeah.
want to do changes.
Right. And I think one of the hardest things over the holidays is all the parties and get togethers, and you have to bring something, and but you don't know how you're going to be that day. I talk about these triggers that, like, I'm just happy if I didn't have a trigger that day. But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I know what the trigger is going to be. Like, it's not like you already know that if you walk into a hospital door, it's going to be a trigger. Like, you have no idea.
Right. Triggers are hard. And one of the things that I've learned over my experiences, when triggers come upon us, they are most of the time they're a surprise. We
Yeah.
weren't prepared for them, right? And we learn something about ourselves with triggers. And so for me, one of the biggest triggers for me was I would see somebody walking. And I couldn't understand why that was a trigger for me, but it would bring on so many heavy emotions, especially if it was a young person walking. And so I could be just driving along and literally see somebody walking, and it would trigger an emotional avalanche for me. I
Why
would,
do you think that is? Like, that's
well,
so.
it's so weird because I know my son and he was 19 and never walked anywhere. Never walked anywhere a day in his life. So I'm like, why is this triggering me?
Yeah.
And so I always would think maybe it's a sign that, he needs to tell me, like he's alone, right? That's what I kept feeling. And so it would remind me and trigger me that he's alone. Like I don't know where he's at. I don't know what he's doing. He's cold. Like if it was cold outside, I was like, oh my gosh, he's alone and cold. And then what I started to learn about myself with triggers is that as they come in, or if you're aware of what triggers, to change the mindset of it. So it took me a while to finally get to a point, but then I started seeing people walking, and then I would make my mindset say, he's walking with me. That's him saying,
Oh,
I'm here. That's I'm walking with you, mom. So I would start to look for them. Then I would start to see, oh, there's somebody walking. I see you, Justin. And especially if they were a young man, like it would be
Comforting.
overwhelming. Yes, comforting, exactly. So that's where I had to turn my trigger into something different with my mindset to promote something else within my grief. And that's one of the things triggers can do. But also, as you trigger, if there's something you're not aware of, give yourself the outlet. So if somebody, like you said, ask about a party, right? They're like, come to our party and be there and bring a gift and all these kind of things. Simply say, I will do my best, but I can't guarantee that I'll be able to join. And that provides, like, I really want to attend, but I don't know how the day is going to be, right?
Right.
None of us do. There could be anything that causes the anxiety. It could be anything. And
Yeah.
it could be simply like you just are having one of those days in grief that it just doesn't seem like you have the strength enough to go out and do that. And you
Right.
have that opportunity to say no. So that's where it simply says, I want to be there. I have every intention of being there, but I can't guarantee. And that's
Right.
just where you have to leave it.
I think it's so crazy because it could be something in a song. It could be, and you don't really know what part of the song did it. Like, it's just so weird. It could be somebody says something in a movie, it could, or a TV show. It could be a phone call that you had that brings up some old stuff of some sort, or whatever. It could be so many different things.
It can. And a lot of times for me, it could be smells. Like a lot of times smells triggers. Like if I
Yeah.
somehow smell my son's cologne that he used to
Oh,
wear, or if I smell, like if I'm making a meal that he used to like, that could be a trigger. There's so many different things. It could be a song. It could be
yeah.
something completely out of that you have no idea where it came from. And it could be a movie, a part of a movie,
Yeah.
a television show. It could be a shirt that reminds you. Triggers are everywhere. And you have to incorporate them into your feelings and let them know, one, to feel it. That's
Right.
the one thing the one big thing is to feel that trigger. That trigger is saying to you, hey, this is emotional. Hey, this is causing your emotions. And to feel it. Don't fight it, feel it. And then realize, what was
And
that
then figure it
about?
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what was that about? Like, why am I, for me, with, like certain, like the smell of my son's cologne, both of my sons wear the same cologne, and I buy them, I still buy my oldest son, who's still um with me today. I buy him the same cologne, and so he wears it, and it's nostalgia. Like it's almost now is like a warm comfort blanket when I smell it. Before it was
Or it
like,
bothered you.
yeah, before it was like, oh my gosh. And so you just really have to feel it and acknowledge it and know that it's there. And if you can change the mindset of it, that's awesome.
Yeah. Gosh, that's such a hard journey to go through that part.
It is.
I'm with you guys. Like, anybody out there listening to that part, it's tough. It's tough because the first thing you want to do is push it down.
Hmm.
Like, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't know what's going on. And I just want to stop crying.
Yeah,
That's what you
absolutely.
want to do, right?
Absolutely. And we all did it. We all do it. Like I still do it. And like I tell people, it's been 7 years. I still have days. I still have triggers. I still have things that bring emotions to me. Um, and it's okay to feel that. The thing that you need to do is acknowledge it, right? Let it known that it's an emotion. And just like when you laugh at a joke or when you cry at a sad event, those are emotions that are normal.
Yeah.
That's normal for you to feel that way. It's normal for you to say, whew, that really takes me back, or that really hurts. And it's okay to go through that. It's okay to feel that. And one of the things that I really stress is that you have to give yourself patience. You have to allow yourself patience to go through all of this grief journey. And it's a journey, and it takes a very long time to get to different spots in your journey. I feel grief never goes away.
Yeah.
However, I have to learn how to live within the grief. So just because I'm happy and rosy and sunshine most of the time doesn't mean that I don't have those days that cause me anxiety or pain or sadness. But what I have to look at is that I contain that to a day or a morning, and then next day focus on a change. Focus on something different. Focus on something that will provide a different outlook for the day. Because what happens a lot of
Right.
times with grief is you're in that mindset for that day, and then you start to think tomorrow's going to be just as bad as today. And what
Or
happens,
worse.
or worse, right? Or, oh my gosh, tomorrow's going to rain today. Today's raining. Tomorrow's going to rain. It's going to be the same pain. It's going to be the same anxiety. And that's where you have to start looking at, and we talked about this, like a vacation, right? You
Yeah.
get excited about a vacation. You get excited about, you don't say to yourself, oh, it's going to rain every day and there's going to be a hurricane. No, you go and you're like, it's going to be sunny. It's going to be a beach day. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And we get to spend time with our friends and family, and it's going to be amazing.
And we
And
get to go to these restaurants and we get to go to
right.
these shows and
Yes. And
whatever it is.
right. And you look forward to it. That's a focus. So, what you do for that day is, if you are on vacation and it comes to pouring down rain, right? You have to change your focus. You have to change your plans. But that doesn't mean you have to give up on the day.
Yeah.
That means you just have to find your focus to make things better, to create that atmosphere that says, you know what, it's raining. So let's go look at a museum. Let's go spend time at a amazing restaurant that we haven't tried yet.
Yeah.
You find things to make it better. And that's the way that grief is. You're going to have those days, but you've got to confine those days to make sure that they don't start leaking into more and more and more days.
Yeah. Do you think you can shorten the pain that's the trigger at some point? Like, can you say, okay, I'm going to give you 2 hours to deal with the body or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's all in a mindset control. However, I do believe that you have to allow yourself to feel what you need to feel. And if it's the day, it's the day. If you can control the emotion and say, listen, hope I'm going to let you have till noon, and then you're going to get your butt up and go to the gym, or you're going to do this, or you're going to do that to make yourself feel stronger. It's finding your why. It's finding what inspires you. And it can be something that inspires you every single day, like my son. But within that day, what else inspires you? It could be your family, your career, your job, the gym,
A
the
hobby.
a hobby, a blog, a podcast. It could be whatever strengthens your inspiration, your passion. And then what happens is you accomplish it, right? So let's say, for example, okay, Hope, I'm going to give yourself till noon, then you're going to get up and you're going to go to the gym. And if you have to cry at the gym, you cry at the gym, but let's focus on something. And so you go into the gym, and none of us are smiling going into the gym. Let's be honest. This is a gym. It's not very fun. Unless you really like it. But for me, I'm like, okay, I'm in here. But then on the way out, you're usually smiling, upbeat, and feeling accomplished. And
Yeah.
so that starts to build your strength within yourself. And that's what I'm talking about. It may not be the gym, it may be something else, but it's accomplishing something to know that you have the power and control to feel like, I accomplished this. I did what I set out to do and I accomplished it. And that builds strength and courage.
That's awesome idea. Really awesome because, oh boy. Um, I mean, it's hard to do something even though you might like the gym, but when you're feeling rotten, it's not like your go-to, right?
Right.
Um, I think the gym or a walk, even like even
Yes.
if you couldn't make it to the gym,
Yes.
well, Tina, maybe I can go for a walk and then I'll accomplish that today,
Yep.
or I'll do the laundry and I'll go for a walk,
Yep.
or whatever it might be, but feel like you've accomplished something at some point in that day.
Absolutely. And for a lot of us, those, me in general, like I love checklists. And so I write out the day, and it can be something as simple as, hey, I folded the laundry, like you said, I did the dishes, or even when you're grieving, it could be, I listened to the song that I didn't think I could. And I got through it. I was crying, but I got through it.
Yeah,
Or it's having those little goals each and every day. And I tell everybody in my program that write something down each day that you want to accomplish it and check it off. And I don't care what that is. I don't care if getting a shower is that, or waking up and fixing breakfast. I don't care what that goal is. It's the feeling of accomplishment when you check that off. For me, it's pen and paper. Like I want to
yeah,
see it come off. But for some of you, it just may be mindset. Like I really want to um, go through my loved one's photo album. Or I really have been meaning to load up the car and take some clothes to charity, or go to their grave and clean it, or go to their grave and actually walk up to the grave. It's
oh,
all about
yeah,
building that accomplishment and what that feeling of courage. Because I'm going to be honest with you, people that are grieving are the strongest people you will ever come across, because they're going through the hardest pain that is not seen. You cannot
yeah.
see grief. You cannot
Feel
physically
it.
see, yes, you cannot see a broken bone, a broken, a broken foot, a shoulder, those kind of things you can see on a person. But grief, you can't physically see.
You can't
And
feel the pain.
right, you can't take it from them, right? You can't fix them. So the major thing to realize with your grieving is how incredibly strong you are by doing these little tasks every day in the midst of pain. It is incredible.
It's like trying to exercise when your leg was broken or arm was
Yes.
broken or whatever.
Right.
It's tough to get through because
It
you
is.
hate to do it, but you know you have to.
Right. It's like rehab. When you go into rehab for your foot or your back or whatever, it could be very painful, but you have to push yourself to show progress, right?
Yeah,
You have to push yourself to show progress. And being uncomfortable is the greatest gift you can give yourself, because it means you're growing or
right.
changing. Being uncomfortable absolutely means you're changing.
Well, we don't really like to be uncomfortable, though, Hope.
Nobody likes to be uncomfortable, right? Nobody likes to be uncomfortable. And when I say uncomfortable, it doesn't have to be painful or something. It just means out of your comfort
Comfort zone.
zone, right? Like if I lived in my comfort zone every day, I don't know if I would learn and grow. So being in that comfort zone, I don't know if I would be getting out of bed, right?
True.
Like when that alarm clock goes off and you're in those warm, comfy blankets and you have the option to snooze or get out of bed, sometimes it's a hard choice to be uncomfortable. And that's what you have to go through to keep moving forward. And it's about changing that comfort. Heck yeah, I'd like to stay in bed all day wrapped up and all cozy, but I have to get into that uncomfortableness to get out, to move, to start my day. And so we make that decision first thing in the morning.
Yeah. And it's so hard to have a goal unless you've done what you've said to do and look at the week and look at the day, to look forward to some things that you want to, I want to look forward to these this week, and I want to accomplish this week. And otherwise you're just going to stay curled up in the bed. And why get out of bed? Really?
Right. And that's okay too. One, we all have been there, let's be honest, that we didn't get out of bed for the day. But make sure that's not the way we end up living, right? I get it, right? There's days I don't get out of bed, whether it's sickness or grief or just one of those days, right?
Yeah.
We all have those, but we can't let those lead into days and weeks and months and those kind of things, because we have people that are counting on us. But not only that, we have to look forward to living. And that's what we stop doing a lot of times with grief,
Yeah.
is we stop looking forward to living and breathing and doing things that make us happy, because we build this guilt, right? I was so guilty of thinking that my son would be unhappy if I was happy, that my life would be like literally would be so, like, I wasn't allowed to be happy again. I wasn't allowed to have a life again. I wasn't allowed to be joyful. And that to me is the opposite of what my son wants. My
Yeah.
son would be devastated if he knew I gave up and said, okay, I'm not going to live anymore. I'm just going to stay here in bed. And that wasn't me. And that wasn't for me. And that's what the choice that you have to make. And it is hard. It is extremely hard to get motivated and focused on something. I get it. But that's where the courage and the strength of you are living this grief. Now we've got to figure out how to live with this grief. And that's what it's all about. It's all about finding that why, that inspiration. And it can come from anywhere, and it can change at any time. It can be small, it could be big, it could be large, it could be write a book, it could be, make a podcast, or it could be something like, I want to take a shower today. It's accomplishing things that are creating you to keep on living.
That's the funniest thing. I really liked one that I actually implement in my life, and I think it was you that had mentioned it, actually, a while back in our last show. But it was like, it sounds funny when you said, "I accomplished to have a shower today."
Hmm.
Whoop-de-whoop. Right?
Hmm.
But at the same time, that is an accomplishment to get out of your way of yourself.
It is. It's
But
getting.
I liked what you had said. So if you, our listeners, are dealing with anybody that you call and say, "How are you doing today?" to that person that's grieving, I liked it better when they would say, "How are you doing today on a scale from 1 to 10?" Because then you can say, "I'm a 1." And then the person calling knows, well, did you have a shower today?
Mhm.
Or they can kind of change the focus, and they don't have to, like, because if somebody said to me, let's just use me as grieving, if somebody called me and said, "How are you doing today?" Well, it's like when you come home and you've had a bad day at school when you're a little kid, and you finally get home, and as soon as you see the door or the steps to the front door or the back door or your mom, what happens? Your whole thing, you just start like exploding of
Mhm.
crying and devastation.
Mhm.
So I thought, when you say on a scale from 1 to 10, if the person said, "Well, I'm an 8 today," then you can like talk about topics a little easier. You can talk about, well, would you like to go out today? Or Can we go for a coffee? I'd love to hear that you have an 8-day today.
Mm-hmm.
Like make it like it's a excitement of progress.
I absolutely love that. You didn't get it from me, so I'm going to steal it. I love it. Um, one of the things that you can do when people are grieving during the holidays and any time when you are dealing with grief and dealing with a friend that's grieving, is be inquisitive, but also just take the time to listen, right?
Yeah,
And so that if you use that, I'd love it. And say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling today? And they say I'm a 1 and I'm really hurting, then I say, okay, what can we do to change that, right?
right.
How can I change that for you? Or all right, we need to do some work here. What is it? Let's talk about it and open up and just listen, right? And
Right.
that's what people don't understand when people with grief. Like, I don't want you to fix me. I
Yeah.
don't want you to try to fix me. Like, I just want you to listen to what I'm dealing with, because sometimes, most of the time, um, people that we come encounter with when we're grieving don't have never felt it, have never felt that specific grief. And all griefs are different, right? Everybody
Yeah.
grieves differently. And I say this, it's as unique as a fingerprint, snowflake. And if you start to compare your grief of grandma to my grief to my son, it's going to be completely opposite and completely different.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's different in severity, it's different in the way that I'm grieving. And so if you allow me to tell you exactly what I'm feeling, you can tell me from your experience what you felt, but don't do this, oh, I know exactly what you're going through,
Yeah.
especially if you don't. And one of the things with Grief to Hope is, like, we've learned in our programs that we all are different in different ways. And sometimes we grieve a certain way in year 3, where some people are in year 1, and some people never experience it and some people always experience it, and it's always different. But if
And
you're
it could
not,
be a cumulative grief too,
oh
not
my
just one
gosh,
thing. Like it could be the loss of your child and then the loss of your father, or the loss of your job, or having to move, and it could be an accumulation of stuff.
you're
So,
exactly right. And one of the things that struggles is, like, is not to compare your grief to a past grief. For example, I lost my grandma, but that grief was different than my loss of my son. And so we have to understand that when we talk to people about grief, is that you may have had the same circumstance,
yeah.
ironically, but it's still going to be different, and a different, and same thing for, like, this type of loss, right? Where we have a lot of biases when it comes to suicide or cancer, or I was just talking to someone the other day about, how we get treated when we lose somebody to suicide compared to a cancer, or drug overdose compared to a health issue. um,
Where you have time to be with them before they pass
Right.
away.
That's exactly, like, you got to
You know,
say
I
goodbye.
I can't say one's better or worse than the other. They're just different.
Exactly that. They're just different. And what I found out is people react differently towards us when we're talking to people. Since we're talking about calling people up, please don't treat it differently. There's still that loss. So if I lose my son to suicide, or if I lose my son to murder, I am still grieving mom. It's not, there should never be any biases with how
No.
my son was taken. And so be aware of that when you talk to people as well. Like, I know people would feel differently talking to me as my son was murdered than somebody, that overdosed or
Right.
suicide. So we've got to be mindful of that. I know
Or
it's going off,
cancer or something.
yes, it's going on a different topic, completely. But there are so many biases that we have to be very, very careful for when we reach out to our friends. At the end of the day, a loss is a loss.
Right.
And that should be what's being treated.
I did like it when one of the guests I had on had also said grief, the pain of grief, is based on the love.
Mm-hmm.
So even a pet can die, and you have to grieve. So I don't like it when some people would say, well, at least you had that time with them before. Or whatever it might be. Like, just don't even talk about that stuff.
I love that. Let me just tell you, one of the things that I've learned, and you've learned, I'm sure, grieving, is that we have to be more patient with people saying things to us than we have saying things to them. And it's really comes from the heart. Most of the time, it really is. I've had somebody say to me, well, at least you have your older son. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful I have my older son. I'd love to still have my younger son. So, and it was from the heart, right? Like they really meant that to be something comforting to me.
It
And
wasn't.
it wasn't. And the things that people say, just be aware of what you say. And the one advice that I can give, if you don't know what to say that. Say, I don't know what to say.
That's
I don't
perfect.
know. Right. And I would be like, that's okay. I just want you to be here. Or I'm just glad you're here and supporting me in any way. And so when people try to, and we all do it, I did it, like you always try to say something comforting and you think it's the right thing to say, or they're in a better place, or you got 19 years with them, and you're like, those kind of things, and believe it or not, those stick with me.
Yeah.
Those awkward things that people say stick with me harder than probably anything, or any memory that I had at that time, because it gave me an emotion of anger, right?
Right.
And so when people say those things out of the goodness of their heart, it caused a pain that was hurtful. And so just be aware. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. Just say that, or say, I'm here for you. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're going through, but I'm here. And that's
That's
okay.
perfect.
Yeah, I
Because
love
I
that.
always describe it like it's like the hair on your top of your skin on your arm. So you walk around with this grief, and it's like all the hair is standing straight up on your arm. That's what it feels like. So
Mm-hmm.
as soon as somebody says something like, well, you still have your other son. Well, now, while your hair is just magnetized, now that just hits it and just like makes you feel like all of your hair everywhere is just like sticking straight up. It's because you're so sensitive.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
you're just like everything just hits that. It's like, anybody ever have a sore on your hand? Like your hands are the worst, where you get burned, or you have a cut on them. How many times do you hit it in a day? It's
Mm-hmm.
like it stands out and it's there to be hit. That's what it feels like, and that's what I feel like grief is. It's like this cover around you that is sensitized, and then as soon as something comes at it, it pokes it, and it makes it more worse.
Oh, I completely agree. I think when you're grieving, especially in the first few months to a year, everything seems to affect the grief. And it's sometimes it can affect you majorly, right, for
Yeah.
the day or the afternoon, or like you can't get it off your mind. Especially if somebody says something, you're like, why would you say that, and we have to provide ourselves a little bit of patience along with everybody else. And I know it's terrible to say, like, we're in the midst of grief and we have to give everybody else patience, but it's really true. Like, you sometimes have to give patience. It's like I say with expectations that we talk about, our expectations are our expectations. And so when people don't live up to our expectations, especially with grief, like,
Yeah.
a lot of times this sort of same along the lines where people disappear because they
Yeah.
don't know what to say. And they're just like, I didn't know what to tell you. I didn't know what to tell. So I just avoided you. Right.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm thinking, I thought you were close to me. I thought you were, my best friend, and you just left me in my time of really needing somebody. That's our expectation, right? And
Yeah.
their expectation is different, where they can't, quote unquote, handle the grief or fix you, and so they avoid you. And
Right.
so we have to be very careful with ourselves to say, it's okay. It's okay. And if you have to leave that relationship because of the way that they made you feel, because a lot of times that trust is broken. Once you're like, you left me in the time I needed you the most,
Yeah.
sometimes that's really hard, but we have to look at it as, I expected you to be there, right?
Right.
Same thing with, like, I tell everybody this story, or this way of looking things is, I expect my husband to take out the trash every day. But that's my
That's
expectation.
yours.
He's not expecting to take the trash out. He's probably thinking, I expect you to take the trash out every day. And so when they don't live up to our expectations, then we get angry. And that's why we have to look at, okay, was that my expectation of that? Like, my expectations was you were going to take that trash out, but did I ever tell you that? Did I ever show you that? Did I ever, relay that to you? And that's the same thing with marriage. Like, I expect you to be this amazing man. And when you don't live up to these expectations, I'm crushed. But then we have to realize that those are my expectations and that they may have a whole different set. So we have to, again, give each other grief or give each other patience with grief, as well as give patience.
Yeah. And I think with your hair standing up because you're so sensitive, now if I was to have someone say to, like, say I'm you, and somebody says, well, you still have your other son, I recognize that bothers me in that instant, but then I just look at my arm and I flick it off,
I
because
love that.
then I'm taking it and I'm like, that's okay, I recognize you, goodbye.
Yeah. I, you know, I think that's amazing if you can do that. I mean, there's stuff that I still remember hearing at the funeral, and days after, that I have to realize was, everybody had the best intentions. And if they didn't have the best intentions, I got to figure out within myself why. Why
Right.
would you say that? Right. So, yeah, if you can flick it off and shove it off, that's even better. Love it.
Yeah, because I think if you can recognize it, like you
Hmm.
said, when you recognize it, is that my expectation, or are they being mean, or like you could go into hours upon hours about worrying about it and thinking about it, and is it worth it?
Right. How much energy have you put? Yes, exactly, Tina. How much energy have you put into this notion, this statement? Yeah, it can sometimes be consuming. And we
It,
do that in our normal day-to-day life, right?
right, right. But it's that hair
Hmm.
is very sensitive on your arm.
I love that.
So
I love it.
yeah. Now, what I also don't like over the holidays, and I'm sure there's lots of listeners out there, is that people have good intentions. And but you don't take them as good intentions when they say it. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So somebody says, "Oh, but please come to my party, my potluck, or my Christmas party. I It's going to be so much fun and I really want you to come." Well, that's very sweet. It's very nice. And I should feel like I do want to do that, but I don't.
Oh, so you're feeling, yeah. So like you just don't have the energy to like put on that grief mask and walk into another party, right?
Well, because they're having so much fun.
Hmm.
That doesn't sit with me
Well,
because you're not in the fun mode.
yeah, absolutely. Like, why would I want to go and be around people and laugh? That's
Yeah,
terrible.
and have
Uh,
fun.
right. Heaven forbid. But no, seriously, with grief, there are days and times when you just don't want to feel that emotion, right? Whether it's sadness or happiness or joy or whatever it is. And you have to be okay with that within yourself. And
Yeah,
so there was so many times I was angry. And especially when it first happened with Justin, I was very angry at everybody and everything. So
right.
to walk into what pissed me off the most was walking into a Walmart or a store of some kind and some lady saying, "Hey, Christmas, how are you today?" And I'm like, I just lost my son a month ago. Are you kidding me? Like, um, and then it got to the point where I had to change my mindset and say, they don't know anything about me. They don't know what I'm going through. Their intentions are so um, unintentional,
Yeah,
where they're
happy.
just trying, right? They're just doing their job. They're trying to be. And then it became where I would be sort of relaxed that when somebody would ask me, "How are you?" It wasn't, "How are you?" It was, "How are you?" And I would say, "Fine." And we go along our day. And I would be like, thank God I didn't have to explain my story, or thank God I didn't have to say exactly how I felt. And so there was different ways of going about it, but having a good time and enjoying fun, and we all do it, right? Whether we're
Yeah,
grieving or not, sometimes you're just not ready for it, or you're just not okay with it for that time. And
right.
you have to be okay with that. You have to say, I it sounds amazing, but I'm just not ready for that today. Or you know, it's hard to get past the anger of everybody else. And we do it on social media too.
Yeah,
Everybody has this amazing life on social media. Like nobody has any crap. Like everybody is living these amazing lives, have amazing marriages, have amazing, their kids are great, they get straight A's, blah, blah, blah. And we have this fantasy world, and that creates a negative for when things go bad in our lives, right?
right.
Like, I'm not living up to the Joneses, or I'm not happy like such and such. And so we build up some anger and frustration. And
But
that's
we
where we,
really don't know if they're really happy or not. Really.
right, right. And you don't know what anybody else is going through, is where I'm going with this. Like, you never know what anybody else is going through. So if it sounds fun and you think, gosh, why can't I have fun? Why can't I go to this party? Why do I have to be so angry? One of the things I say out loud all the time is, why do I have to visit my son in a grave? Why do I have to come here to visit my son on his birthday and on Christmas? Why can't why? But then we have to look at the reasons behind it and understand to give ourselves the patience and allow ourselves to feel the way that we feel honestly, and that it's okay, and that we still can live and have joy and have happiness, even though we have those bad times, even though we have those anger moments, even though we have those sad times.
Yeah,
Those are specific times in a lifelong of emotions. And so when you're angry at certain people, don't stay there, right? Don't stay there and allow yourself to become bitter and angry and hateful. Just know that at that point in time, that's upsetting and it's angry. But there's other points in your life that's going to be happy and joyful.
yeah.
And you have to experience all of those. I say it all the time. If you didn't have sadness, you wouldn't know what happiness is. If you
True.
didn't have dark, you wouldn't know what light is. And so that's where we have to say, as grievers, I feel the worst pain. I know what that darkness is, but I also know what lightness is. I know the light. I know what the difference is because I've been there.
Right.
And I know that I can get through this darkness and there'll be light. But I also know I can handle if there's another darkness, right?
Yeah.
That's where we have to get to, because unless some God-forsaken miracle, you never have another death or another darkness or another, horrific
Tragic.
thing and tragedy in your life, which I hope nobody has to. But if you go through this darkness into light, you know that you can manage another darkness. And
Right.
that's what it's all about.
Especially when you can say, hey, I'm doing okay with this. I got it. You know?
Yeah.
I wanted to mention about uh, being asked out to a holiday event. And I don't know if you can bring yourself back to feeling, I mean, we all feel worse over Christmas.
Hmm.
Let's, I mean, it's a fact.
Hmm.
When you're sensitive and everything is just sitting on top of your hair here, it's tough. So if I was to ask you, Hope, um, come to our house Christmas party. Um, you don't have to bring anything. I just want you to come, and I want you to have fun. And we're all going to be it's going to be so much fun. And I'd really like you to come. If they asked you like that, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel like you want to go? Or does it make you feel like, oh, don't know?
I think it depends on where I'm at. It also depends on the atmosphere. It depends on the expectations. If I can set expectations about the party, um, if somebody comes at me and says, it's going to be so much fun and, we want you to be here and it's going to be incredible. And I just lost my son
Right.
months before.
But they have all good intentions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That to me would be, I could do one of two things. I could say, thank you. I appreciate it, but I'm not ready. Or two, I will try to make it, but I'll probably have some expectations. Can I tell you about those? And if that doesn't vibe with you, I don't want to be sort of like the Debbie Downer, right? You don't want to come and create an atmosphere either, right?
Right.
That's another thing with grievers is like I've heard, and this hasn't happened to me, but people won't intentionally invite you because they think you are grieving and you will not have fun and you will bring everybody down, right?
Right.
That has happened, right? I've heard.
So that hurts too.
That hurts too when you're not invited, right? Um, or when it's like a couples, like you've lost your spouse, and it used to be, six couples getting together for Christmas, and you exchange gifts and blah blah blah. And now that Sally lost her husband, we're not going to invite Sally because it'll be too depressing for everybody, and it's our season. Blah blah blah. I mean, it happens, right?
Right.
And so I think, you got to be honest. First off, be honest with people that sometimes their intention is to fix you and, oh, we're going to have so much fun and you won't feel like you're grieving and, you'll just enjoy yourself. Because 9 times out of 10, it's hard when it
But when you're
first, when
grieving,
it,
it's like,
right.
that like sounds like just too much fun for me.
Right. That
That's what
sounds
it
too
sounds like.
hard for me to handle, right? And that's where you say that's a trigger, like I don't know if I can handle being around people on the holidays and being joyful, and I'm feeling these feelings of guilt when I laugh or when I think I'm having a good time. I'm just not in a good place to be at a family function or to
Yeah.
be at a party. Or you can simply say, I'll try it. But if it gets to be too much, I may have to leave.
Right.
Right. And that's where
Those
you
are all
have
good
to give yourself.
options.
Absolutely. You have to allow yourself the freedom to choose and be okay with saying no.
So let's turn the table from the perspective of me asking you to the party and being really happy and saying, we're all going to have so much fun and I want you to be there and you're really going to enjoy it with all good intentions, of course. What could they say it differently? How could that look like? How could they say it differently to you, Hope, that you could actually say right away, that sounds like I could manage that? That
You
sounds like I could do that.
I love that. I love that question. And the biggest thing is to say, how would you feel if we, held this party? How would you feel coming? Can you give me some ideas of how to make it comfortable for you? Because I know it's going to be hard, or I know it's going to be emotional. So this is my plan. Okay, Tina, I know you're in the midst of grief, and I really want you to come and enjoy this party, but I want to make sure that you're comfortable. What can we do together to make that happen?
Yeah.
And then if you said that to me, I would be like, wow, you really care how I feel?
Yeah.
Or you really want me to like be there? Because to me, if you say something like that, like, how can we do this together? First off, it makes me feel like you really want me to be there. You're not
Right.
just doing a pity invite.
Right.
Two, you can set expectations with all of your other guests and say, listen, I talked to Hope and she's completely cool with coming, but these are some guidelines. If you can do this or do that for her, that would be awesome. It's just, if you invite me with the intention of saying, I really want you to be there, how can we make this happen? It's much more inviting than it's going to be lots of fun and you're not going to think of care in the world. And because then you have expectations on me that as a griever, I'm going to come and have fun. What if I
Yeah.
don't come and have fun? Then your expectations is that
Yeah.
I you failed, right?
Well, it is really scary. It is scary.
Right. It
As
is.
soon as they say you're going to have lots of fun, I think, well, I don't know about that.
Right. What if I don't? Who's going to be,
Right.
feeling like I'm going to feel like a failure because you told me I was going to have fun. You're going to feel like a failure because you said I was going to have fun. So I think
And
it's
how
just
do you know I'm going to have fun? Like, that's
right.
so, it's so
Right.
stupid, really, all of it,
Right.
right?
It
Because
is.
they
It
have
is.
all good intentions.
It does. It does. Just make it a warm welcome, and how can they do it together is the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
And I guess family's no different, right?
Oh gosh, no. They're family's probably the worst because friends and family are different when it comes to grief for me. Um my friends are bigger supporters in grief and my journey than some family is. And I think it's because my family knows me probably better than friends when it
Yeah.
comes to my livelihood, how I live, how I breathe, my personality, um, and how I was at a younger age. They just know a lot about me, right? Where
Right.
friends may not know as in, all the things that I've gone through in my childhood and those kind of things. So family sometimes aren't as supportive. And what I'm finding out through Grief to Hope, the program, is a lot of people expected their family to be more supportive than strangers or friends.
Yes.
And sometimes that's not the case
Well,
because
it's our
they
expectations.
correct. And exactly, our expectations are my family is going to be giving me this love and support and kindness and patience. And sometimes, and it happened to me, where certain family wanted me to go back to normal. They kept saying, you need to go back to work and get back to normal. You need to go back to normal. You need to go back to the old Hope. You need to go back to that Hope. Like I was going to flip a switch and be
Oh,
right back to that version before Justin.
yeah. Like, just a second here. Let me just dial it and
Right. Let
change
me
that.
turn this
Hold
back
on.
to the old version Hope. And I tell everybody, I'm version 2.0. I am a different Hope now after my son passed. And in some ways, I'm even better. And what I mean by that, I'm more grateful, more patient. I'm more eh, hopeful. I'm more of a dreamer. I'm more of a not waste time, not procrastinate, but I'm also that hope that has gone through extremely
Reality.
right amount of pain that can sometimes wipe me off my feet. And so it changes you. And there's never going to be that version 1.0, right? Um, and sometimes it's hard for families to feel comfortable around you when you're not that same person that they know. And friends
Yeah.
are more forgiving,
Yeah.
right?
Plus, they don't know all the details underneath
Right,
all of.
right. Friends are
Oh my
way more
goodness.
forgiving.
I can't believe how long we've been talking. We could talk about this for all afternoon, literally.
Absolutely.
I'm so thrilled to have you come on the show, Hope, to talk about this because it's all this holiday stuff, like just going to the cashier and they're saying, Merry Christmas. What are you going to do when you get home? Or, they're so jolly and, oh, what are you going to do this weekend at Christmas or whatever? And you feel like saying, shut up.
Right, right. That's where I had to learn. That's where I had to learn to flip that switch and say, oh my gosh, they don't know anything about me. So I
Yeah.
can say fine and move on
And I
and
know it's
not
hard at
have
first,
that.
though.
Yeah, it is. It is hard at first. Let me tell you, one of the things that I struggled with the most was I had to find Justin's clothes for his funeral. And the cashier
Oh,
said, Where would you like the receipt? And in my mind, I'm like, I'm not bringing this back. How could this lady say this? I was so appalled by that lady saying where I want the receipt. And I was like, okay, she has no idea what I'm going, what I'm doing, what I'm feeling. So sometimes it's okay to feel that anger. We just have to remind ourselves where they're coming from.
yeah. What kind of final message would you like to tell the listeners?
Be patient with yourself during these holidays. Um, Grief is hard, and every day is hard, but you will find that inspiration each and every day to keep moving forward. And be okay with being patient and saying no. And most of all, establish those boundaries that you need wherever you're at in your grief journey.
That sounds awesome. We've talked about a lot of different things here, and we've only touched it, honestly.
Yes,
So maybe we should do a after holiday one too, because there's that.
I love that.
Yeah. Comment down below if you guys want us to do another one because I there's so many different holidays going, each month too that puts another perspective on things again. And you just thought, geez, I just got through Christmas.
I know. And sometimes it's those anniversaries, it's their birthdays, it's the date of
Your
death.
birthday.
Your birthday, Mother's Day was a big one for me. Um, you know, it was hard because my oldest son is the only one that calls me mom now.
Yeah.
And so that was very hard for me as well. So all these holidays, you just gotta prepare yourself and know and put on a focus for the day.
Yeah.
Whether it's not anything, that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Just putting the garbage out or mailing a letter or whatever little thing it might be.
Yes,
Putting your socks on.
absolutely.
You
Whatever
can
you
be
feel is
happy or
okay.
sad.
I think our internet may have went down.
There we
Oh,
are.
there we are.
That's weird today.
I
Maybe
know.
it's being used a lot or something. I don't know what it is, but
It's the holidays, Tina. It's the holidays.
it's like, hi, we're back. Well, I loved our show today. Thank you so much again, Hope, for doing this for us and listeners. Comment down below and tell us your little story about how you're struggling or what it made you talk to others about. Perhaps maybe it changed a way that you are talking to someone who's grieving. Hopefully, it has. I mean, we try, don't we? Hope to just touch one person, because there's so many ways of looking at it and so many ways of dealing with it, and who knows what's right. I liked what you said on how to deal with being asked and how to deal with being asking others who are grieving. It's that time that's so sensitive for each person. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing as always with you.
Awesome. So if you are thinking about that special someone right now that you haven't talked to in a while, make sure that you pick up the phone, knock on their door, FaceTime them, Zoom time them, whatever it is, but make sure you tell them how much you love and care about them today, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. And don't take things for granted, because everything can change in the blink of an eye. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel down below as well. And Mike Tyson says everyone has a plan till you get punched in the mouth. Yeah. I have talked to so many people. Do you have a backup plan? Yeah, I've done my will. Oh, he looks after all of that. Really? You think so? Wait till it actually happens. Wait till it actually happens, and then you get punched in the mouth. That's what I say. Because I have talked to so many people, and they're all put in the same boat. Sometimes you can find things after someone passes away. Sometimes you can't. And it just adds to your grief and the pain. And that's what I want to help remove, so that you can take that time to actually grieve and love the family that you do have and friends that are around you grieving as well. So that being said, I always end with Carol Burnett, like Hope knows. And I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes a time we have to say so long. So long, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow on another episode of a series of grief over the holidays. And we'll have Hope come back in January and talk about after the holidays, because that's another one too. So thank you for coming on, Hope. Thank you. You know I love you, and I love all of you. So take care and stay safe till next time. Bye.